This has happened once before with Vignesh. Anyways, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, Unlimited Energy Syndrome podcast. I'm here joined by Cara Mcelroy. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name's Cara. I'm 16. I go to school with Mantra, and I'm just excited to be here.
Yeah, good. Okay, so, do you want to just let us know a bit about yourself from a nationality standpoint or your ethnicity?
Sure. So I think that's something that's really important, like, before I go into it, to, like, who I am as a person. Like, obviously, this differs for everyone,
Yeah,
but my ethnicity and who I am also really plays into how my life works and how I've been affected by people throughout my life. So I'm mixed. I'm half Fijian Indian on my mum's side. I've also got
yeah,
some, like, other stuff splashed into there as well. And then
yeah.
on my dad's side, I'm predominantly British, but I've also got some Irish and Scottish in me as well. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So now you like anime and K dramas. So how do you think that occurred for you?
Um, I would say that it was probably due to, like, school mostly. Going to William Clark and studying Japanese from year 7, I would definitely say that the end of term movies that we watched, all the Studio Ghibli and everything, really influenced me in a way that made me want to learn more about, like, anime and, like, movies from Japan and things like that. So I would say that was definitely, like, the most impactful thing. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, okay. Well, for me, it's a bit similar. I got introduced to Dragon Ball Z when I was 5 years old because in India, during my uncle's wedding, I wouldn't be allowed to go to most of the events because they're for adults. So I'd be stuck with other kids watching anime, and I was just
Mm.
intrigued by the emotion and the action in that show, and that kind of got me into more anime like Pokemon or Beyblades. And now I've got a pretty diverse taste because I watch all
Yes.
types of genres. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Well, what do you think intrigued you about anime?
Probably the way that their lives looked so different. More specifically, talking about, like, anime set in school, like, all of those kinds of things. Watching how different their lives were compared to ours, and even now watching K dramas based off of, like, school in Korea, it's just really intriguing seeing how different their life is compared to ours. And
Yeah,
the way that they show things, I feel like there's such an open market towards young kids, but a lot of Australian and American dramas don't really hit it properly.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah. I know. Like, I like American TV shows,
Mm.
but I feel like some Korean dramas because a lot of them are rehashed and some are kind of boring. But
Yeah.
if you get the good Korean dramas, I feel like they're really it's kind of fresh. It's a different type of story. Like
100%.
we both have watched My Ideas Gangnam Beauty, and if
Jingle
that was said,
bells.
like I was really intrigued by the fact that they're making a bigger deal out of plastic surgery than it really should be. But
Mm.
if you actually look at it from a cultural standpoint, it makes sense
Yeah.
in
100%.
Korea at least. Because in Australia, you look, everyone's got something going on which could be fake or not.
Mhm.
Like one of my mates, Ethan, has a fake tooth. Like it,
Yeah.
it's part of the norm now, but in Korea, I guess it's still kind of seen as taboo, and that's just kind of interesting to
Mm.
me.
100%. Yeah. Hey, I actually had something kind of similar that I wanted to, like, talk to you about, and I don't know if
Yeah.
you've seen it. So, do you, like, watch a lot of TikTok and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I watched some TikToks.
Well, at the moment, there's this trend going around where it's predominantly Indian TikTok where they're
Yeah,
dancing around to this song, and it's, like, talking about being dark skin and everything. And they've got,
yeah,
like, dark skin face paint on, and
yeah,
then they, like, lift up the lid or they do a transition, and it's to them, like, their normal skin color. And a lot of people are coming for the Indian community for the fact that they're doing that because they're calling it blackface, and they're saying it's because of African American people and saying that it's trying to make fun of them. But would you say it's about that, or would you say it's about, like,
it's
colorism that's going on in India?
it's about colorism in India because like this is something I never quite understood in India. Is that you look at all these TV ads and it's like Fair and Lovely,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all about how the what do you call it pastier you are, the better, I guess.
Yes,
And
100%.
the one thing I never quite understood is that what's wrong with color, like especially in India,
Mm.
because India in India, a lot of people look up to Western culture. Like I'm pretty sure they enjoy Western celebrities more than they enjoy Indian celebrities at times.
Mm,
And the one thing I could never quite understand is that what's so wrong about being slightly dark skinned, and
100%.
what's so good about being slightly light skinned? Because for
Mm,
me, like as an Indian, I'm a very light skinned Indian to the point where people mistaken me for being Middle Eastern or Filipino.
mm,
And, I never saw it as a bad thing, but I never also saw it as like this thing which I should be super grateful for because
yeah.
I'm like, there's nothing wrong. Like, you know,
Mm.
Big Nash, nicest guy. He's a pretty good looking dude as well. And like, there's nothing wrong with him being slightly darker than I am, or comparing me to someone like Tom, who's a pretty pasty dude.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because that is something that has been going around a lot recently, and I've seen a lot of people hating on Indians and using it as an excuse to be really racist towards them. And I
Yeah,
think that the hostility that people are met with isn't going to make them want to change anything.
yeah,
I actually did some research about it myself, and I found out the reason why this is all happening is because when colonization first occurred in India, one of the biggest things that was brought to the citizens' attention was white is the new standard of beauty. The lighter
yeah,
you are, the more beautiful you are. And that's why when you go to Indian shops anywhere, you'll see skin lightening cream. And
yeah,
not even just in Indian communities, also in African communities and everywhere like that. So I just think that it's really important that people become more educated on that and don't get so offended when they first see it, because instead of hating on someone, I think we should educate them, you know?
yeah. I mean, that's one thing because, racism and stuff. That's nothing new. But with India, I don't think it's exactly racism towards dark-skinned people. I feel like it's more as an issue in society that they're trying to make it seem like there's something wrong with that.
Yeah.
Because like they're not exactly discriminating. It's not like schools are saying, "Oh, no dark skinned allowed," but like, it's kind of just reflecting upon that to show, okay, this is how society has shaped, I guess, beauty, looks, status, stands to be, and this is the way it should be.
Mm.
When in reality, it doesn't have to be like that in India. Like that's one of the reasons I love living in Australia because I feel like the color of your skin isn't as big of a deal as it is in India when it comes to
Mm.
beauty, I guess.
Yeah, 100%.
And you just look at the media, like when in India they make it seem like being dark skinned is so bad, but like right now, look who's the best basketball player right now, Michael Jordan. Or not even that. You look who some of the best boxers are, Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, people who I look up to.
Mm.
And like, if I were to say that they aren't beautiful just because of dark skin, well, then you're kind of taking away the purpose of, I guess, opinions. I guess like it shouldn't be the norm to say that one color is better than the other. I feel like it should be preferences. I guess if that makes sense.
So you think that it's like okay for people to have preferences on who they want to date and things like that?
Well, yeah, I guess. But at the end of the day, if you look at most couples, they don't usually end up with people who just look good. They usually end up with people who they're compatible with.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because like if I were to say I would never say go out with a really dark skinned person, then I guess I'd just be doing a disfavor, I guess, upon myself because
Yeah.
that's just taking away one whole type of thing. Like, just imagine saying that you would never eat a certain cuisine of food because one food is seen as better. Like, it makes no sense. Just
Yeah,
try them all out, see what fits you best, and then you just go with that.
I agree with you. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, well, one more topic, something which I've never had a go on this podcast yet,
Mm.
so there's something I could ask you. Do you feel that as a woman, you should be more insecure about certain body features, like say having a nose which is a different shape, or say having small ears, etc., like those little things?
I mean, sometimes you do look at other girls or you do look at people in the media, and I can only speak for myself on this. I can't talk for the
Yeah,
entire
of
female
course, of
population.
course.
But in like my situation, I would say that there are times where I look at someone and I think, oh, you know, she has the same skin color as me. She has the same like body features as me, except she just looks prettier.
Yeah.
And I think that it's okay for people to feel insecure, and I think that that is just a part of growing up, and I think that's awful that that's a part of us growing up. But
Yeah, of course.
something that I've noticed is that people are slowly turning that into a way to just stop people from like having self-confidence. Like, I'll give
Yeah.
you an example, Mantra. I remember you used to always talk about how you were really proud of your weight loss, and
Yeah.
you're really proud of how much you like gain muscle and everything like that. And
Yeah.
people really brought you down about that. And they said you weren't allowed to be self-confident, and they called you arrogant and everything like that.
Yeah,
They
of course.
obviously there's a line between being really, confident in yourself and like shoving it in people's faces. But
Yeah.
that's just a perfect example of where people talk down on others and say, no, you're beautiful. You shouldn't say that about yourself. But when you finally come to terms and finally agree with the fact you think you're pretty, all of a sudden you're not even allowed to say it.
I mean, that's what's happening with Adele right now. Because
Yeah.
have you seen her? She's recently lost so much weight,
Mm,
and she's a much healthier person. If you're a fan of Adele, you should be happy because if she's healthier, she's going to be able to sing longer. She's going to be able to inspire others for longer.
mm,
Because the whole goal of being healthy is just to live longer.
yeah.
You don't see like there's no problem with being fat.
Mm,
There is a problem with living an unhealthy lifestyle than trying to convince others that you're healthy.
mm,
Like this whole, I guess, fat movement, which I'm not a big fan of. And being a kid who used to be a really fat kid, like everyone knew me as that fat Indian kid back in the day. For me, what I would say is that it's good to tell someone like fat shaming works. I don't care what people say, it works. It worked for me, it can work for others. But there is a difference between constantly just arrogantly being mean to someone about the weight and constructively criticizing them to say, hey, look, if you're a bit overweight and I feel like it could benefit you from a physical standpoint to lose a bit of fat or to start running a bit or to eat more
mm,
vegetables or cut out a bit of the fried foods. And it's little things like this which can really help you as a whole. Because you, when you're born, you can think of it as you're playing a game of cards and you get a certain amount of cards. Now, you can get given the worst cards or you can get given the best cards. You can be made obese from a young age. You can have a slow as metabolism, or you can have the fastest metabolism and have no problem taking weight off. But the whole goal is to do the best you can with what you've got.
mm.
And with Adele, she's like, I don't want to say this, but I'd say naturally she could be more prone to gaining weight easily than, say, other celebrities. But what she's doing is that she's doing the best with what she's got, and she's succeeding with that. She's losing weight, she's getting slimmer. But then all of her quote unquote fans are coming and saying that you shouldn't lose weight, you were beautiful the way you were before. When in reality, they're probably more insecure about something about themselves. And they're
But
just looking up to that person
mm.
to try to make themselves feel better about their own situation. Like, if a celebrity's fat, then I can stay fat and be healthy. But in reality, that's not the case.
Well, I think that I actually, like literally 5 minutes ago, right before we started this podcast, I was actually looking at some things that Adele's personal trainer was saying. And the only
Yeah.
reason why Adele chose to lose weight like that was for her own health. It wasn't to try and look prettier. It wasn't trying to fit standards of beauty. It was to try and stay healthy as a person. I don't know if
Yeah.
you know about this, Mantra, but she actually just got out of a really abusive relationship.
Yeah.
And her husband took like more than half of her money.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. No, I heard about that.
yeah,
That
and
makes no sense.
I think that for her, perhaps this is a project for her to maybe get. I can't speak again on behalf of Adele, but this is probably something for her that she can try and change things and try and shed the image of looking at herself and seeing the person that she used to be with her husband. And I think that either way, she was beautiful and it was fine. I have to disagree with you when you say that like being fat is always like bad and fat shaming is always a good thing. And that's
Yeah.
just like my opinion. I honestly, I think that if someone is unhealthy, it doesn't necessarily just mean that they're fat. Someone could be unhealthy and be skinny. It doesn't mean that just physically someone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the more that you press an image onto someone and say you have to be like this, the more they're going to desire it. And that's when people start getting eating disorders and they start significantly trying to alter the way that they look. And I think that that's so wrong. As much as
Yeah.
I think that in certain circumstances, fat shaming could work, there are also times where it won't. And that's why I think
Yeah.
that you should never ever put someone down because of the weight that they have. Because
Yeah.
like I don't think that that's okay at all. Just because someone's fat doesn't mean you need to hate on them, and just because someone's skinny doesn't mean you have to hate on them.
Yeah, no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying
Mm.
is that, like, if you're fat, there's nothing wrong with being fat, but the end goal should be that you should have healthy habits. It doesn't matter whether you have 25% body fat or like 10% body fat. But if you're doing stuff which is harming you on the insides, then I feel like that should be changed. And
Yeah.
I don't think you should bully someone about being fat, but like constructively criticizing them on saying
Mm.
like, okay, look, like I'm your friend and I just want to know what's best for you, but I think you should cut down on the alcohol a bit, or I think you should
Mm.
cut down on smoking a bit. Like that's what I mean by like if someone's like morbidly obese and
Mm.
they're not doing anything to stay healthy. Because like you can look at Shaquille O'Neal. He's relatively healthy. He's gotten a bit bigger, but you know that happens with age and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But you wouldn't normally think of him as someone who's unhealthy because he still exercises on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
But if you compare it to someone who just sits back all day, plays video games, drinks soda all day,
Mm.
eats a lot of processed crap and all that, then they're just harming themselves.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like you should draw the line of constructively telling them to maybe cut back on that a bit and add a few new healthy habits.
I agree with you on that. I think if it comes from a place of love, then that's
Yeah, of
okay.
course.
Like, for example, if I was, you know, larger and you came to me,
Yeah,
you said to me in the place of genuine concern that you think that
yeah,
I should, like, watch out, I would be okay with that and I wouldn't mind. But if it was someone who I don't really know, if it was someone I speak to maybe like 3 times a day, not 3 times a day, like 3 times in my entire life, I would
yeah.
probably just be like, whoa, back off a bit. I don't need your opinion. But if it's from a place of concern and a place of genuine like sincerity, that's different. 100%.
Yeah, like last year when I injured my back, I was starting to gain a lot of weight, and it took like I think one of my mates, I think it was like Shin, who told me that I've put on a bit of weight. Where I realized like, okay, I think I've put on a bit of weight. I need to get back on track now
Mm.
because that'll become the start of a new habit, which could end on a very bad road.
Mm.
I feel like it just depends where it comes from. If it comes from someone who's already insecure about themselves and they're just trying to put you down even more, then that's wrong. But if it comes from someone who's trying to help you, who's trying to be genuine and be like, okay, look, you need to lose this, otherwise you're gonna harm yourself.
Mm.
And they're trying to stop you from being self-destructive. Because at the end of the day, like, there's nothing wrong with eating a donut. There's nothing wrong with having milk tea. But if you're lacking nutrients, which help your body run better, and you're putting all this processed stuff, which your liver's having to go through, and it's just harming you on the insides on a regular basis without any recovery, then you're hurting yourself. But
Mm.
if you know strengthening your heart through cardio, you're strengthening your muscles, you're eating most of the time nutritional valued foods like vegetables, fruits, fiber, protein, carbs, the right amount of fats, then going like, say you've been healthy for a month and in a week you get a bit off track, then that's fine. Like it happens. We're all human. It's going to happen to everyone who tries to diet. It's going to happen. Even bodybuilders to this day struggle to stay on track all year round.
Mm.
But I feel like when it's become a lifestyle for you, or it's turning into a lifestyle or a big habit, then that's where I feel like you need to step in and stop that person
Mm. Yeah.
before. Because the longer you continue in a habit or lifestyle, the harder it gets to get out of it.
Yeah.
Like for
100%.
me, it wasn't until I was 14 where I got serious about eating properly, and I think it was only until I was 16 last year when I started to care about my nutrition to a like proper level. Because before I used to be like, okay, just no donuts and stuff, but I still eat chips and all that, and I still eat too much bread and all that. But now I care about like the proper fractions of how much I eat, and like I don't care because right now I'm at like 20% body fat. It's not shredded, it's not obese, but for me, I'm like, as long as I've got these habits, it's okay.
Mm.
Like, the only person I'm trying to show up to is myself. I'm not trying to be like Tanga Jai, who's got like 8% body fat but eats KFC almost every second day. Like, I'm trying to be better than I was yesterday. And some days I'll be much better, some days I won't be better. But as long as you're constantly striving to be better,
Mm.
then I feel like you're succeeding. You're improving in life.
I'm willing to share like my story as well. I don't
Sure,
know,
go
like
ahead.
I don't know if like you know this mantra, but when I was a lot younger, I used to be like really, really skinny. I used to be like a tiny kid. I used to do like competitive running, you know, cross country. I would always be within like the top 10 and things like that.
Yeah,
I used to always go to like the next zone level. If you didn't know, my dad used to live at Bondi, and every weekend that I was over there, I used to run like 4 laps of Bondi Beach consecutively and not break a sweat
yeah,
at all. And I was eating and I wasn't gaining any weight and nothing was happening to me. And
yeah,
it got hard. It got
yeah,
really difficult seeing myself really skinny all the time. And that might seem dumb and that might seem like a weird thing to say. But sometimes you don't want to be the skinny kid. Sometimes you don't
yeah,
want to
of
be the kid
course.
who can't. I can't gain weight on my calves. If you look at my calves, there's nothing there. It's
Yeah,
actually really funny. I look like one of my nicknames is chicken legs because it looks like I have chicken legs. So,
yeah,
like, I think that as long as you aren't comparing yourself to anyone else and you're doing
yeah,
things for your sake, no matter what it may be, do whatever makes you happy, in my opinion, honestly. If you want to gain weight, you can gain weight. If you want to lose weight, you can lose weight. As
yeah,
long as you aren't putting yourself down within the process of that and harming yourself or others, I think that it shouldn't matter. That's just my.
yeah. I mean, yeah, of course, in this argument of gaining weight or losing weight, there's always two sides of the coin. Like for
Mhm.
me, I used to, back in like year 7, 8, and 9, I used to hate my genetics. I used to be like, oh, I put on weight too quickly. Like my friend struggles to put on 1 kilo within a year, but I can put on 1 kilo within a week. And I used to hate it so much. But then the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I should be grateful that at least I can put on weight. Because
Mhm.
like one of my mates, he struggles to put on any sort of muscle mass. But for me, sure, I can put on fat easily, but I can also put on muscle a lot easier than others can.
Mm.
Like with me, from last year to this year, I've probably put on around 8 to 10 kilos of just muscle, just because for my body type, it's easier for me to put that on as opposed to like someone else who struggles to put on muscle but can stay at a low body fat percentage until they're like 40 without having to worry about it. Like, I feel like with everything you get in life, there's always going to be some positives.
Mm.
And as long as you focus on the positives and work through the negatives, then I feel like you should be fine.
Yeah,
Like, that's
100%.
just me, though.
Yeah. Ooh, good chat.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay, what are your thoughts on, uh, let's just say, plastic surgery?
Interesting. I think that it's okay. It's a really expensive industry. It accumulates so much money for our economy, and it feeds off of the insecurities of people. But all that being said, it makes people happy at the end of the day. As long as
Yeah.
people aren't doing it to an abusive state. Like if you look, for example, if you look at My ID's Gangnam Beauty, I,
Yeah.
I want to ask you, what do you think about that? Should she have gotten full face cosmetic surgery like that? Do you think that is a good message to send to people?
I feel like the main message they're trying to send is that you should be allowed to take control of your own happiness without having to worry about what others think.
Mm.
And that's what I liked about the show. Because me personally, like a similar thing, guys don't use. This isn't common for guys to go plastic surgery, but I do know that in India right now, hair transplants are kind of on the rise. They're
Mm-hmm.
increasing
Yeah.
because, like, the statistics that millennials are losing hair at a younger age now due to like stress and all that. So
Mm.
in India, hair transplants are becoming a big thing. And I'd say from a guy's perspective, like me, I'm probably prone to losing my hair just because of genetics.
Mm-hmm.
But on the plus side, I can grow out a good beard.
You
So I'm
can.
great. I'm grateful for that, as opposed to like Shin, who's been growing out his mustache for the last 6 months and it has like barely any mass. So like if you think in My ID Gangnam Beauty, where the girl, she's been bullied, or I'd say segregated due to her looks.
Yeah.
Like, she was so ugly to the point where no one wanted to hang out with her except, Chun Woo. Everyone loves him. Uh, so the way I think is, if you're doing something to make yourself happy and it succeeds and you are genuinely happy with the result and you can move on from life without having to worry about that, then I would say good for you.
Mm.
Congratulations. And when it comes to people judging others for doing these things, I would just tend to say that they're probably more insecure about something within themselves. So
Mhm.
they have me take it out on them. Because even in the show, it showed that the only person who really had a problem with her getting plastic surgery is the other girl who was
Yeah.
always insecure about it looks from a young age. Because all of their friends, all the people who really mattered about it, and the voices in her life which mattered, the people who loved it, they were all fine with it. Sure, the dad was a bit skeptical, but even he came to accept it for what it
Yeah.
was.
100%.
So, so like I felt like the show sent a pretty good message, not just to women but to men as well. And it was, it's a good show, and the message still sticks to me throughout days because I'm like, well, before that, I used to think people who go for like nose surgeries and nose jobs are crazy.
Mm.
But now I think, well, as long as you're not super obsessing about it, then it's fine. As long as it's not harming anyone else, it's fine. But
Mm.
if you're doing it to the point where that's all you care about, then I would come in and say that you shouldn't be so worried about little things like that.
100%. Yeah. I think that it's good to see that perspective from a TV show, any
Yeah,
TV show, because obviously we always like TV shows always try and put the message into young girls' minds. That's they try to at least that it's
yeah,
okay to be yourself and it's okay to just accept who you are and don't try and change it. But for once, this was the first time I've ever seen a TV show, except for like some really old ones, where it's like plastic surgery is actually seen as like a thing that's okay and like it's process. And if it's something that helps people feel better about themselves, then there's obviously a flip side, and that makes people really happy about who they are and what they look like. And I think
yeah,
it's really refreshing to see like a different side to how plastic surgery is seen in TV. So yeah, I think it's a great message. 100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Well, what do you think about certain animes which try to reflect on the message of society? Like, have you seen A Silent Voice?
No.
Okay, that's a movie which I really recommend you watch. Yeah,
Okay, will
it's
do.
it's about a boy who, when he was in middle school, he bullied a deaf girl because she was different to everyone. But then eventually, everyone else who bullied her started bullying him just because he's the one who got caught.
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So then, by the time he gets older, he attempts to commit suicide, but
Oh.
his mother stops him. And from there, it's just a journey of how he tries to go from this fear to how he tries to redeem himself.
Mm.
And it shows the relationship between him and that girl, and it reflects on how, like, a lot of people aren't what they really seem.
Yeah.
So I thought that's a pretty good message because you look at a lot of American TV, especially kids' TV shows, and they don't show this stuff to an extent. And I don't know, I felt like that's kind of refreshing because
Yeah.
if I want to be entertained, sure, I can just watch Two and a Half Men. But like, yeah, like I can just watch Two and a Half Men. But if you want to actually start thinking about stuff, then I feel like it's great that in today's generation, especially with globalization and all that, that we have access to all these other forms of medium.
Yeah. 100%.
Like, have you seen Parasite?
No, but I want to see it so badly. Oh my goodness. I
I'm not
know
gonna
the
say
general
as
gist of what the movie's about, though.
yeah. Well, Parasite's a really good film. There's a reason it won the Oscar,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a film which got me thinking. But another film which really got me thinking is 2011 thriller called I Saw the Devil.
Mm?
And that, have you seen I Saw the Devil?
I'm sorry, Manchef. I have not. No.
Are you into gory action movies?
Not really, no.
Well, then you probably shouldn't watch this one. No,
Okay, I'll
it's
put it down.
basically yeah, it's about this like Korean CIA agent whose fiance gets kidnapped and murdered by a serial killer,
Oh.
and basically he goes on a hunt to hunt down the serial killer, and the serial killer's like this deranged dude. He likes cutting off limbs and separating them bit by bit. He likes all
Wow.
this, yeah, he likes doing all this really scary stuff. And the part that really got me uncomfortable was the fact that the CIA agent, everyone knows him as this really like, he's a nice dude, he's a genuine dude. Like when his girlfriend was, her car broke down, and that's when the dude kidnapped her. But while her car broke down, like to comfort her, he started singing a song to her and like all these little things. And it shows how far he gets pushed. And it just reflects by the end of the movie, like, who do you think really was the devil? Was it the guy who tortured and murdered these women, or was it the guy who tortured the murderer, then let him go, only to go back after him and torture him again?
Whoa, that's actually a good message though when you think
Yeah,
about it.
like, yeah, it's a pretty good thing.
Mm.
Anyways, what's a movie which got you thinking?
One of my favorite, and I'm sure you know this, Mantra. I don't know if you've watched them, but you know Jordan Peele, the comedian.
No.
No, okay. Well, he has these two movies that have just come out recently, and they're called Get Out and
Oh, yeah, I
Show
know Get Out.
Get Out, and also his newer one called Us. And both of them really made me think quite a bit about life
Yeah,
in America. Like obviously it's not very parallel to how we live in Australia because you don't see the types of violent actions that go on in America compared to
yeah,
what happen in Australia. But it's kind of a commentary on how black people are treated within society in America. Not
of
even just
course.
that, how even though they've been looked down upon throughout so many centuries of history, a lot of the time they're glorified because of their typical actions and things like that. For
Yeah,
example, a lot of people hate and have hated on their skin color for a really long time, and I can even say
yeah,
that about me. I can say that me as an Australian, I'm sure you can as well.
yeah,
I've faced issues and I've faced comments and I've faced that kind of stuff from people who used to be my friends who have turned on me and said awful things about me just because of
yeah.
the color of my skin. But a lot of those people end up getting fake tans anyway.
Yeah,
And
that's one thing I never quite understood about
yeah,
Australia. Like, what's up with the fake tan business?
it's a good question, honestly. I don't know.
Like, I've always been so confused because I remember one time a girl in like, I think year 7 called me a curry muncher, and I'm like, well, damn, that sucks. But 1 week later, I see her with darker skin than me, and I'm like, what?
Tell me about it. I don't understand. The same people who like try and darken their skin by like 4 shades are the ones who used to call me curry muncher. Like how funny how the turns have tabled. You know what
I
I'm
mean,
saying?
it's kind of like in Get Out. Everyone's been racist to black people, but they want them for the superior physicality.
Exactly. And it's also a commentary on how like they love their culture and like things like box braids, things like that. Like white people love it and they want it so badly. But then they make fun of black people and then they take their culture away from them. It's just really dumb to me. Like you got to love all parts of a culture, in my opinion. You can't just steal certain parts of it for your own. I just think it's dumb, honestly.
Yeah, yeah, of course, that makes sense. I mean, what else did you like about Get Out though? Like, did you like the cinematography?
Yes, I loved it. It was just not only the way that they portrayed each of the characters, it was also how they showed the different sides to each of them. Like for example, Chris, who's the main guy, and by the way, this will like ruin the movie if you haven't seen it. But Chris, he's a photographer, and he
Yeah, his
the guy,
girlfriend basically takes him.
yeah, the guy who he is auctioned off to wants him because of his eyes. He wants so he
Yeah,
can see. The guy who tries to take him is blind. But I think
yeah,
a thing that a lot of people miss is the fact that he didn't just want Chris because of his actual eyes. He wanted him for his knack for photography. He's like, it was a double entendre for also the fact that he was really like good at picking up good photos and taking really nice photos. But then it's just saying how, well, you can try and steal it and you can try and take his eye for photography, but you won't really be able to because he'll be in the backseat of his own life, if that makes sense. There's kind of
that makes
also
sense.
a commentary on that where it's like you try and assimilate the culture and you try and get people to, you try and take Black people's culture away from them, but you'll never be the same as them. You'll never do it the same way. You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it was kind of like the one scene which really made me laugh, but also curious, was when the other dude was just kind of running at Chris.
The grandpa.
Yeah, the grandpa
Yes.
just running at Chris. Then he just turns, and I was curious for like a whole day what that meant because the movie never taught us. But then when I rewatched it and I saw the dad saying how his dad couldn't beat the African American person in a race, just made me think, oh my god, that was like such a like the cinematography of that movie just that's why I love Parasite. Like that's the one thing which me and Adrian never get bored of talking about is just film. Because Adrian, as much of a dropkick as Adrian is, as dumb as the things he may say at times, that person loves his film. He's always he hates Marvel movies because he's like, there's not enough cinematography. His favorite movie is Parasite. One of his favorite movies is like Godfather or Get Out or Us. Like he likes all these types of movies with twist and proper plot and stuff which reflects upon society. So yeah, that's the one thing I like about films.
I have to say, if you enjoy that, and I don't know if Adrian's gonna watch this or listen to this podcast, but I know
he listens to each episode. It's amazing.
Well, I just really strongly recommend that he watches the movies Midsummer and Hereditary. They're both by the same director, but they're insane. The cinematography in that and all of the little underground metaphors and things like that, it's actually nuts. Also, Midsummer is very crazy. I don't know if you've heard about it before. Have you heard about it before, Mantra?
Nah, I've never heard about it.
I personally can't sit through it by myself and watch it because it gets very crazy towards the middle. Anyone who's watched it can testify to that. So make sure that you don't watch it around like your younger siblings or anything like that because it's like really weird. But definitely strongly recommend those movies.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I feel like the thing I like about movies these days, but the thing I wish we could see more of is, have you seen Tropic Thunder?
No.
Okay, in Tropic Thunder, basically Robert Downey Jr. does blackface, where in the movie he's playing an actor who's like such a big actor that he turns into every character he plays, even for the interviews, and he has to play an African American, I think, sergeant in the Vietnam War. So he gets plastic surgery to be dark skinned.
Oh my goodness.
And he starts acting African American with the full accent and everything, and it's like super derogatory. But the one thing I like about the movie is that it's trying to reflect upon Hollywood, because at that time Hollywood was doing that to a lot of movies, and I think the only reason that movie was a success was because it got released before the whole political correctness movement started.
Interesting.
Yeah, because like he was also, people wanted to see more RDJ because of Iron Man. Like he was so successful because of that one movie that everyone wanted to see him. And in Tropic Thunder, he was the funniest character in there. Like pretty good acting by Robert Downey Jr. But if it was released in 2020, that movie would be the biggest disaster.
Well, do we want to talk about political correctness for a minute?
Well, sure. Do you have any experiences with that?
So, I recently, for Society and Culture, I had to present a mini version of my PIP, which is our like final exam. And basically what happens is you have to pick a topic that you like, and it has to just be based around humans, and you have to write about it. And I wrote about political correctness and how that has altered how we talk in Australia. And I asked a whole bunch of people. I got about 40 responses from people, and they talked about their experiences with political correctness, not even just here, but also in America. And it was really interesting to see how everyone's views contrasted based on where they lived. And
Yeah.
I just want to point out that a lot of people in Australia seem to think that we have free speech. We don't have free speech in Australia. You can actually get fined,
Arrested, right?
arrested or fined if you say specific things that are really derogatory, because we have certain laws in place, such as the Anti-Discrimination Act of 1975, and other things around that. Legal cases have set the precedent where you can only have free speech regarding political things. So you can talk about like abortion freely, as long as it doesn't invade on the personal rights of others. It's
Yeah.
fine. But if you say something really derogatory towards someone, you can get fined for it. So
Really?
yeah, that does impact the way that we talk in Australia, 100%. And I think that there are ups and downs to political correctness. Like, what do you think about it?
I think the few ups to political correctness is that it stops unnecessary discrimination towards the like different ethnicities or different sexual orientations.
Yeah.
Because for me, I like to regard myself as an egalitarian. As long as you don't bother me, I don't bother you. I don't care what you are, whether you're a girl, boy, transgender, transsexual. Like, you can be whoever you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it's not affecting others, I have no problem.
100%. Yeah.
But then the bigger problem comes to me when they try to invade other stuff. Not invade, like a lot of people try to take advantage of certain things. Like, for example, transgender MMA fighters, like people who used to be biological men transitioning to females and competing against biologically born females
I know this is a
in
big issue
mixed
for you,
martial arts.
Mantro.
Well, it's a big issue for, I'd say, 99% of people who are into contact sports or like combat sports, especially. It's a big issue for them because it shouldn't be allowed. Because, like, you and me, if you punch me, like, 9 out of 10 times, it's just gonna be a bit inconvenient for me. It's not gonna like impact me too much. But if I like punch you, for example, or like kick you, then of course I've got more mass on me because genetically guys do have bigger builds, more muscle mass, more strength, and we've got stronger bone structure, more density in our muscles, while girls don't have that much. And it's not that it's discriminatory or segregatory or any of that. At the end of the day, it's just biological.
Mm-hmm.
Men physically do have an advantage in combat sports. It can be due to bone structure, testosterone, and no matter how much estrogen you inject in yourself, men naturally will have that testosterone. It's in our genetics. Like, it's in the prostates, which men can't remove, even if they transition. They can't remove the prostates. It's in our, even our brains for guys. They have different like structures compared to women, where we naturally just produce more testosterone than girls would, and testosterone gives us strength and like speed and like big in mass and size. So like there's not much you can really even do about it. You can't just make a transgender league for now, at least, because not enough people are in for it. But I feel like you still shouldn't allow transgender women to go up against biologically born women because it's too much of an advantage.
I don't really have like a say on it because I don't really know enough about it. But I mean, I'm sure you have your reasons for it. I know that there are people in our grade who, when you brought this topic up before, they've gotten really offended about it and they don't like
Yeah.
your stance on it. And that when we go back to talking about political correctness, I think that's wrong. I think that you should be allowed to say what you want. It's not like you saying that is going to stop transgender women from actually going out and fighting. It's your opinion. It's not what's written into the code of MMA fighting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're allowed to say
There's no rule against it.
Yeah.
But I just, from a unbiased standpoint, like, look, you can be transgender and write music, and I would listen to music if I like the music. It doesn't mean I like you or hate you. It means like I have nothing against you. It's the same thing. If you're a girl, I've got nothing against you. If you do something which annoys me, though, then I have something against it. Same thing if you're a guy. If you're a guy, I have nothing against you. If you do something to annoy me, then I have something against you. Like,
yes.
but in this political correctness scenario, it's almost like biological women are being suppressed instead of transgender women. Like, there's this one YouTuber, I keep forgetting his name, who, as a joke, claimed to be a female for 9 hours as he broke the female powerlifting records.
Oh.
And he's a dude who had a full beard and everything, and he did that. I'm pretty sure as a joke, but like the news saw it and they took pretty big offense to it. But then, if you think about it, technically, if like I'd say official, if that's the right word to use, I don't know the right word to use, but I'll just use the word official transgender women are allowed to do it, then I feel like it shouldn't be so wrong for some person who's doing it from a comedic standpoint to do it. Because in this whole era of political correctness and woke media, it's almost like we're doing all this to shield ourselves from every little thing. But when something big could happen, we'll have no way on how to react to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, not wrong.
Yeah.
I have a question, Mantra.
Yeah.
So, obviously, I don't think you've been out much during this whole quarantine period.
Well, yeah.
What do you think about people who are still going out? What do you think about it?
As long as they're not breaking any of the rules and as long as they're staying safe, then there's nothing wrong with it. Like, if there's a full-on group, like a bunch of ashes that wrestle, like squad of like 15 people hanging out, then I feel like, well, look, that's not the smartest thing. But if it's like, I think right now the rule is that one or two families can hang out at a time because it's becoming a bit more lenient, then that's fine. If it's like 3 or 4 people at the park, then if they're following the rules and they're socially distancing themselves, well, then that's okay. So, like, as long as you just stay in the rules, it's fine. For me, though, the only time I've actually gone out is if I'm going for a run, and that's just near my parks. Otherwise, I haven't actually been out, and like that's taken a big hit on me. But school starts in just 2 days, so looking forward to that.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to agree with you in the sense that as long as you're adhering to rules, a lot of people think that we're like allowed to go hang out with our friends and family now because yesterday Scott Morrison, he announced the 3-step plan to get people back into normal life. But what a lot of people don't understand is that just because Scott Morrison says that doesn't mean that the state governments actually have to put that in place. So what we have in Australia is we have this difference between exclusive, residual, and concurrent powers, which basically means that there are certain jurisdictions that each government holds over different parts of Australian life. So the Australian government are the ones who can state, this is the amount that everyone in Australia will be taxed. There are also things like crime, for example, where it's like, well, the Australian government has a general rule about it, but then states can specify what they think. So, like, being charged with murder in New South Wales would be different from being charged in Victoria, for example. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
But then there are things like education that each of the state governments get full jurisdiction on. So as much as the Prime Minister can jump up and down saying, I want schools to open right now, Gladys Berejiklian does not have to listen to him unless she wants to. So, no, we're not out of lockdown yet. We might be out of it soon.
Yeah, I know.
But I think that people should still be careful, even if the lockdown laws are lifted. Because, have you heard about what happened in Japan?
No. What happened?
No. So, the Japanese government, I think it was in Hokkaido in Japan.
As long as it's away from Shibuya, where all of our mates are at, I'm happy.
No, I told you, right? No. Basically, they lifted up all of the lockdown bans. Everyone was out in public again. The place where it happened is really well known for all of their like really beautiful flowers and stuff like that. So everyone ran down there to like go and have a look at all the flowers. And the second wave of coronavirus hit them like it was no one's business. And now they're gone so much higher in their coronavirus rates just because they lifted up the law early. So I think even when we are allowed to go back to normal life, I think people should be so careful and make your health your health is your responsibility. So make sure that you look after yourself, and that goes for everyone. I don't care if you're hanging out with your friends, as long as you're social distancing and as long as you're, putting yourself first and making sure that you're safe and not harming others, I think that it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's true. Because a lot of people aren't exactly like realizing how big of an issue this could get.
Yes.
And that's why I was kind of skeptical, because as much as I want school to be back on, they said 1 day back for week 3, then a full week back in week 4, and that kind of seemed a bit off to me, because I'm like, surely you'll try to just gradually bring them back,
Mm.
like a few more days every week, because it's the same thing with, I'd say, weightlifting. If you just go once a week, go ham, then try to go 5 days a week again, you're gonna hurt yourself.
Mm. Yeah, you're right. Do you think that it will be normal when we go back to school?
No.
No?
I feel like
Yeah,
they're still going to have to socially distance themselves. I know for a fact that we're not going to have any assemblies or chapels, etc.
Did you hear what's
Or,
happening with chapel?
oh no, what?
So instead of us going to chapel, we're going to be in our Christian development classrooms and we're going to watch a video all together that the chapel team creates. That's what's going to happen from now
Yay.
on. That's the reaction
Well,
they hope for.
well, look, our school is trying its best. That's all
Yeah,
I'll say. They're trying
100%.
their best to get through this, and I guess we should just be happy about that, because
Yes.
there are a lot of schools which aren't really doing much to help right now.
Mhm.
So I feel like the good thing is that our school is trying its best with what it's got. I do feel like we will have a second wave of coronavirus,
Mhm.
because I feel like Scott Morrison is lifting the laws a bit too quickly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I just think, I'm honest to God, I'm just glad that we're going back to school. I have
Yeah.
my friends more than anything, and I am ready to stop sitting at my dining room chair 24/7.
Well, I feel like it wouldn't be a big deal if school was off. It's just the fact that we're stuck at home. We're
Yes.
just glad that we're going to get some action going now.
Yes, going outside.
Yeah, because like for me, I'm only allowed to go to the park for an hour max or 2 hours max. That's the law. So you can't even stay out for that long.
No, that's a F. My mum still lets me go out, like go for walks. So
Yeah,
I am not in full containment in my house. So I'm
yeah.
doing okay.
I
But
mean, like,
mm,
I guess I've just run out of stuff to do at home to keep myself occupied.
no, you're not wrong. Me too, honestly.
Yeah,
And also, I get so distracted when I'm at home. I'm trying to study and I'm trying to work really hard, but then I just see something and I'm like, oh, I want to do that instead. And then I end up doing it.
yeah. It's weird because we have more time to study, but you can't
Yeah.
study productively.
No, it's not at all.
Like for me, I feel like when I knew I only had 3 hours left to study, then I would get more done. Because when I'm like, oh, 8 hours, oh, surely I can get more stuff done, but I end up getting less done.
Yeah, same as me.
So yeah, when this lockdown's over, I'm gonna be a bit happy.
Yeah, me too, honestly. I'll be
Yeah.
very glad. Oh. Do you have any other topics you want to discuss?
Well, I was hoping you could pick one because
You
I
want
feel
me to
like
pick
I've
one?
chose. You should
Okay,
pick one.
let's see. What else could we talk about? Right. I'll ask you something about
Yeah.
when we went to Japan.
Yeah.
And this kind of ties a little bit back into our first conversation about race. When we
Yeah.
were in Japan, Mantra, I do still remember when we first arrived at the school.
Yeah.
What was what was that little incident that happened with that girl where she called you a name and it was a very specific name? Do you remember that?
I got called derogatory term for an African American individual,
Mm-hmm.
and I was mainly just confused because I'm an Indian person.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, just bouncing off of that specific thing that happened.
Yeah.
You and I both know, we've spoken about this before, we want to go and retire in Japan when we finally
Yeah.
do all of our whole life stuff. Do you
Yeah.
think that race will significantly impact our experience while we're in Japan?
Yes, but I also feel like it'll be in a good way. because apart from one or two incidents, the one thing I loved about Japan is that everyone was more intrigued by different
Yes.
ethnicities,
100%.
especially when I was with my host and
Mhm.
I was talking to just random strangers at restaurants who they, they were asking questions, but they were asking out of curiosity,
Yeah.
which I thought that was just amazing because they didn't they asked me first of all where I was born, and I told them like I was born in India, but I was raised in Australia and all that.
Mhm.
And then they were asking like questions about stereotypes if they're correct, but they weren't asking from a bad place. They were asking from
Yeah.
a place of curiosity.
Yeah, no,
Like one
it's really
one
nice.
of them asked me if I had a child asked if I had a pet kangaroo, and I thought that was yeah. So I feel like especially because Japan like it's turning a lot more multicultural
Mhm.
because I was just surprised with the amount of non-Japanese people I saw in Japan.
Yeah, no. 100%. Yeah.
Because usually when I go to India, I rarely see any non-Indians. But
Yeah.
in Japan, it's turning a bit more, I guess, multicultural, sort of like Western countries like Australia or America.
Mm.
And that is something to look forward to within the next 20 years on how
Yeah.
Japan changes.
One other thing that I like from my perspective, because obviously I can say you and I were the only me and Tarika were the only like tanned people who went on the trip. Um,
Yeah,
and I would say our experience probably slightly different from people who look more conventionally Asian, who also went on the
yeah,
trip because there was like a lot more excitement to see something that was different. And I can
yeah,
say, for example, Jasmine, oh my goodness, the amount of attention that she got.
yeah,
Every time we were walking the hallway, she would get crowded and she would get, you know, heaps of people
yeah,
obsessed with her. And I just remember that was like a really fun thing. It wasn't like a bad thing. It was just fun to see people so
yeah,
excited to see us and so kind. Like I could say every time that Lily and I walked down the hallways in Japan, people would be screaming, "Oh, kawaii, kawaii!" You wouldn't
yeah,
see that if you don't see that if we were walking down the halls in an Australian school. People would just be like, "What?
yeah.
Who cares?"
I mean, I liked a lot of the guys in Japan, especially at like I liked a few of my host buddies' friends
Yes.
because like okay, this is a weird thing to say, but they were Japanese eshays pretty much, like smoking cigarettes and like that. But unlike Australian eshays who are kind of like, oh yeah, what are you looking at, mine, and like trying to threaten you, they were really nice
Yeah,
people.
I
Like
still,
they were unusually nice people.
yeah, 100%. So I don't know if you know this mantra, but all of the essays over there, they're called skinheads. The
Yeah,
translation is skinheads. I just remember there were so many of them. I was so surprised by how many of them there were. Weren't
yeah.
you? I was shocked. But
I
they
was
were all nice.
surprised.
They were all so kind. They were really lovely people.
Yeah. And those seem as the bad people in Japan, so that made no sense to
I
me.
know. I was like, I expected when I first heard about them, I thought they were going to be really intimidating and everything, but they were all they were like the nicest ones to me. So
Yeah,
honestly,
they were all really nice to me, and I was just super confused on
yeah,
how that happened.
yeah, no, I just I miss it so much. I can say I can't speak on behalf of you, but I can definitely say that that has
Oh
been
no, I miss it a lot because I do plan on going next year after I graduate high school,
mm,
and probably gonna go there before I start another milestone in life. Like say before I start my master's degree or before I start a new job, I'll probably just go to Tokyo.
good idea. I,
Yeah.
I wish because obviously I don't, or maybe you don't know this. What I want to do is I want to become like a prosecutor or a judge within like
Oh,
Australia.
really?
Yeah, no, I want to. My dream job is to become a Supreme Court judge in Australia.
Yeah.
And obviously you can't really practice the law. That's because the law is so different from Australia to Japan. So I can't really like go over there and like practice law. So I can't live there while also doing the thing that I love. So I
Yeah.
probably won't be able to go there as much, but I definitely want to go back there 100% because that has altered my life so much. I don't know about you, but that's genuinely changed my insight on so many things.
It hasn't really altered my life.
Mm,
I feel like for me, if my life ever goes downhill in life, then I know for a fact that Tokyo would be my escape.
yeah, fair enough.
Like for me, I've been to so many countries. I know that Singapore is the place I'd go to have a good time. I know that Fiji is a place I'd go if I ever need to relax if I'm stressed. I
Mm.
know that like Hong Kong is where I'd go if I ever want to start as a big time businessman. But I know for a fact that if I ever want to retire, or if I'm ever just done with people and everything, I'll just, if I had to fake my death and go live in another country, it would be Tokyo for me.
In a country, Tokyo.
Sorry, Japan.
No,
And
you're right.
to be honest, not even Tokyo. I would love to live in some rural part of Japan.
Yeah, 100%. Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
Yeah, their rural parts are so much better than Australia's.
I don't know about that, but they are
Cause
pretty.
that's like I loved what do you call it? Remember Miyajima? That was a great
Yes.
place.
Oh my gosh, I want to go back there so bad, especially because like for me, that was like my birthday when we were in Miyajima, so
Yeah,
it's got that double memory to it. So yeah, 100%.
yeah. For
I'll
me, I
say
just loved it because it was so peaceful there.
yeah, 100%. I've been
Hmm.
to, and I'm lucky enough to say this. I'm very fortunate. I think I've been to like 12 countries around the world. I could say
Yeah,
maybe more than that. I don't really know. And of all of them, they've all been awesome in their own special way. But Japan is the only one where it's like one way or the other. It's like
yeah,
so modern, but it's so traditional at the same time. And it's like vast, just insane how much culture they have and how kind they all are, you know?
yeah.
So
They're all
I'm
really
saying
kind.
if I were to disappear and I had to go somewhere and you can't find me, I'll be in Japan. So
If I were
that's
to
pretty
disappear and you can't find me, I'll be in Koki's basement.
okay.
I'll
Nice.
be living in that man's basement.
Nice.
That man, that man was so loaded. He was so down to earth too, though. It made no sense.
For a second, I forgot that he like stayed with you, and I was like, "Wait, how do you, how do you know this man that well to go and live in his basement?" Then I remember he literally like spent 2 weeks
Yeah.
living in your
I
house.
mean, with Ryunosuke, I'd love hanging out with him, but if I had to live at someone's house, I'd probably live at Koki's.
Yeah,
Just
no,
because
I feel that.
Koki is so much more down to earth than Ryunosuke. Because Ryunosuke, he was nice to me, but to his friends, he was a douche a lot of times. It was funny, yeah.
Imagine
like,
if he was watching this, I'd hurt his feelings.
no, I love that guy though. He was really nice to me. He gave me a lot of good hospitality.
Mm.
But to his friend, he would always flip them off every 2 seconds. It was pretty
Oh,
funny. I remember he kicked one of his friends in the groin.
oh,
He, he, he just got bored and kicked him.
oh, wow. Interesting choice of
So I'm
comic
like,
affection.
Ryunosuke is a really good person, but if I lived with him, I'd probably end up getting really close. And yeah, but with Koki, it was really weird for me because Koki was nice to everyone,
Mm.
and he came from one of the he's really loaded. Like his dad's got this business empire,
Okay.
and like it just made no sense how whenever we would run into some of my mates from Blacktown, he would just be the nicest person to every single person he met.
I can imagine.
I remember the funniest thing was when there's this park near my house where it's really nice during the day, but when it gets night, it's sketchy. And we were getting a kebab, and because he loved kebabs after I got him one, he ended up walking towards the park while I was ordering, and
Oh,
I had to stop him. And I'm like, bro,
don't do that.
don't do that.
It's not a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like there's a. That's why I like Japan. It's a really nice place, and
Mm,
I wouldn't have to worry about a lot of things.
100%, yeah.
The
Oh.
only thing I'd be a bit worried about is learning how the train tracks work.
I would say for you as a man, it's different. So, like for you, that's the thing you have to worry about. I would love to live in Japan and I would love to live there by myself if I could and, all that stuff. But because of certain things that happened to me while I was in Japan, I think I would have to be a
Yeah,
lot more wary and a lot more careful. Like,
yeah, of course.
I'm sure you remember the incident on the train.
Hmm.
That was like weird.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know. So obviously, I think that there are aspects of Japan that are awesome, but I wouldn't live there by myself because that's scary.
I mean, for me, I genuinely do want to live by myself when I'm older.
Mhm.
Like, because my whole goal is to start a business and then just, you know, that's it. That's my whole life, just a business and have
Mhm.
fun outside of the business. So I feel like if I went to Japan, then I would have a lot of fun outside of the business lifestyle.
Yeah, you're right. You would.
Like I'm pretty sure if people went to Japan and they found me at one place, they would find me at Akihabara almost every Saturday. I can assure that.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
It's such a nice place. I
Okay.
went there once, only once.
And it's like, well, that's it. That's my life now.
Yeah, I didn't even go there when Naka took us there. I went there with Ryunosuke
Oh, really?
because he knew I liked anime and he took me to Akihabara and he took me to the arcades there and the arcades are so fire.
Yes, I do remember the arcades over there. Oh my goodness, they were awesome.
Yeah,
Oh, I
I
miss
mean,
Japan.
I'm pretty sure if Ryunosuke ever visits though, then I'm gonna have to find him a pretty big room because
Why?
that man he carries so much stuff on him. He carries so much stuff on
Oh my gosh.
him. Whenever he goes out, he's got like all chargers, phone, speaker, lighter. You know why? He's got all this stuff on him, and I'm always like, bro, if he ever came to stay, I'd have to give him a big room just so he could hide everything.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Yeah, like the guy got suspended for smoking, drinking, and getting into a fight.
Such a crackhead.
He's a crackhead, but I love that guy.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean, everyone. He's a really nice guy. A lot of the girls in that group liked him. At first, they thought he was a creep because of what Kaito did, but then,
Yeah, no. Kaito is a little bit special.
that's the one thing I respected about Ryunosuke is that he did all this drugs and all this sketchy stuff, but he always respected women, and I'm like,
Yeah,
damn.
good. This is like that's the good part of him, right? Like he was very respectful, but he was also a crackhead. That's the
I
best
mean,
kind of person.
but Kaito was just this horny animal 90% of the time.
Crazy.
But he was the funniest
Yeah,
person
he will
from
hate
that
you.
school. Every girl in that group was scared of him, but all the guys were entertained by him.
No,
All the guys were entertained by him.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Anyways, well, this has been fun, and our time's pretty much done. So, hope you had fun, Kara.
Of course.
Yeah. And hope to bring you back on some other time.
Of course. I can't wait till your podcast blows up, honestly.
Let's hope. Let's hope. Anyways, bye-bye.
Bye.